Hello, children. My name is Ellen Monaco, and I'm so excited to be here today to share my story with you. It's called The Snowman and the Dragon, and it's by Ellen Monaco, myself. I'm very excited to be able to present this to you because I also want you to think about writing stories and using your imagination. And I wrote this story so that we could all enjoy magic and think about using our imaginations a little bit more. Once upon a time, there was this wonderful little boy, and his name was Gino. Just like yourself, he was a little boy, probably about 7 or 8 years old, and he had an incredible imagination. And he used to love to make imaginary friends. But his favorite friend was Logan. And you know where Logan was? Logan was in the mirror. And in the middle of the night, he used to get up out of bed and he used to meet Logan in the mirror. And Logan would take his hand and they would fly to this beautiful, magical world. And the name of it was Tirania. Tirania was in the galaxies far, far away, and it was so beautiful. It had a rainbow palace made of crystal, and it had beautiful waterfalls and all kinds of flying stars flying through the air. It was very beautiful. But Gino loved to go visit Logan's grandfather. He had amazing stories that he used to tell the boys. So one day they went flying down into Logan's grandfather's house, and they sat around and they drank hot cocoa and they ate these delicious strawberry tarts with lots of whipped cream on top. Oh, doesn't that sound delicious? I want some right now. Anyway, this is how the story goes that the grandfather told them how Tirania came about. Because there's one secret I did not tell you about. In Tirania, there used to be a beautiful crystal palace. But the crystal palace is no longer there anymore. And you know what's there instead? Can you guess? It's a green, slimy swamp, and it's very thick and bubbly and oozy. And you know what? If anybody falls into that swamp, that's it. They're gone forever and ever. Very scary. And you know what? That swamp is getting bigger and bigger. So Gino wanted to know why. So the grandfather sat down and he said to Gino, once upon a time, about 100 years ago, our world was beautiful, and it had a king and a princess. And the king's name was Lotus, and the princess was Celeste. And they had a wonderful time in Tirania. All the people got along, everybody was friends, they had beautiful food. And the one extraordinary thing they had every year was something called the Tiranian Games. Kind of like the Olympics, where everybody comes together and shows off all the incredible things they can do. Think about what you can do. Some of you play soccer, some of you do gymnastics. Well, in Tirania, guess what they did that was really cool? They were soarers. They could fly. Isn't that amazing? Wouldn't that be cool to fly like birds? Anyhow, that was their special gift. And so when they competed at this Olympic type of game, one of the competitions that they had was called soaring contest. Well, the king that lived there, his name was Lotus, as I told you, and his beautiful princess, and her name was Celeste. Celeste also competed in these games because her incredible feat that she did was soar. She practiced for hours and hours so she could be the best of the best. Because what happens when we're the best? It's because we worked hard to become the best. It doesn't come naturally, we have to practice. So, anyhow, as we're moving on, Celeste was practicing one day, and this little boy came over to her and tried to befriend her. And his name was Hermaphrodites. I know that's a big mouthful, huh? Hermaphrodites was his name. Now he seemed like a nice little boy at first, but you know what? There was evil inside of him, because the only reason he wanted to befriend Celeste was because he wanted to learn all her secrets. He wanted to learn how to soar too. And so she just loved him. She didn't have a little brother, so she thought, okay, you can come and be my friend. And they used to soar together and do incredible tricks together. But unfortunately, she really didn't understand what he was up to. Well, the day came for those games, and all the people gathered around to cheer and to eat delicious food and drink hot chocolate. And some people won and some people didn't win, and that was okay because everybody worked really hard to play in those games. Well, the soaring contest game came, and everybody did fantastic. They did great, but now it was Celeste's turn. And she flew and she dove and she did tricks and she just looked so amazing. And everyone thought she was going to win. But then Hermaphrodites came up and he said, "It's my turn, Your Majesty," he said to King Lotus. "It's my turn now, and I want to do it." So he got up, he dove off, and he was amazing because he had copied all her secrets and he had been practicing too. And at the very end, the king had to reward him. He was the winner. And guess what he won? He won a magical crystal of transformation. Because when you held that crystal up and you said, whatever you said, abracadabra, dippity-doo, I want to transform you into whatever you would like to be transformed into, the crystal would explode into a million pieces and you would turn into that person or that thing or something. The problem was, the big problem, is once you transformed, that was it. You could never transform back. Well, anyhow, the Princess Celeste knew. She knew Hermaphrodites had stole her secrets, and she ran after him, and she said, "Shame on you for stealing my secrets. You were only my friend because you wanted to have the secrets of my beautiful soaring, and now you have the crystal." And he said, "Ha ha ha ha, you thought I was your friend. Well, you're a fool because I have the magic crystal now." And she says, "You better turn that crystal in back to the king, because if you don't, I'm going to tell on you." And he got really worried about this. And he thought, I've got to do something really quick. And so he held the crystal right in front of Celeste and he said, "Abracadabra, zippity-doo, I'm going to transform you into an evil, scary-looking dragon." And the crystal exploded into a million pieces. And it got really dark and quiet. And all of a sudden, you could see Celeste, that once beautiful, beautiful princess. She was now an ugly, scary, green, red, very vicious-looking dragon. And now she knew her life was over. And she started to cry. And she slithered away. Well, the king was coming just in the nick of time to see his daughter being transformed into a dragon. And he had realized what had happened, and he knew what he had to do. And he ran into his castle, and he ran into a little crystal secret compartment, and he got a little crystal chest, and he opened it up, and he grabbed 2 crystals out of it. And right when he was grabbing those magic crystals, he turned around, and guess who was behind him? It was Hermaphrodites. He had snuck up behind him. He was about to hit him over the head with a dagger. And the king turned around, and he said, held up his crystal, and he looked at Hermaphrodites and he said, "Transform this evil boy. Transform him into a snowman, because his heart is cold as ice, and I don't want him ever hurting anybody ever, ever again." And so the snowman now appeared. The crystal shattered into a million pieces, and that little boy turned into, guess what he turned into? You're right. He turned into a cold, evil snowman. And he begged the king. He begged the king to please transform him back. "Please, please, please. I'm so sorry for what I did. I know I was wrong." But the king said, "No, you're evil and you need to learn your lesson." And so now the snowman slithered away and nobody knew where he went. Well, the king was just beside himself. He was so sad. He decided that he just couldn't rule his kingdom anymore. And so he climbed up on top of his castle and he held the crystal up. Well, he had 2 crystals. Remember, I told you there was 2. So he took one of the crystals and he threw it as far and as hard as he could. And he said, "Whoever finds this crystal will be the ruler of my kingdom. They will rule this kingdom and they will take care of my people." Then after that, he held up the second crystal and he stood up on top of his palace and he said, "Crystal, transform this palace. Transform it into a green, slimy swamp. Transform it. 1, 2, 3. And the crystal just broke into a million pieces and the castle was turned into a scary, green, slimy swamp. And now you know, children, now you know how that swamp came to be. Well, now Gino and Logan were just completely engaged into the grandfather's story. But Gino knew he had to go home. He had to go home. It was time. He had to go home to his parents and go back to his bed. And so Logan took him back home. Well, This is part two. When Gino was sleeping in his bed, guess who came to him? It was the ghost. It was the ghost of Princess Celeste. And she said, Gino, Gino, wake up. You must wake up. Our kingdom needs help. It needs help. Please wake up, Gino. And so Gino woke up and he ran to the mirror and he saw Logan there waiting for him. And Logan said, we need to get back home, Gino. I need your help. The swamp is getting bigger and bigger. It's going to completely destroy our kingdom. Please, Gino, you must come with me. And so he took Logan's hand and he was pulled through the mirror and they flew back to Tirania.